And at gunpoint, he wanted to know every time that he thought I had cheated on him. And it became a pistol playing situation, put the pillow over your face. Um, it became a lot. It sounds like a Lifetime movie when you actually hear it.
Some stories sound unbelievable until you realize they're real. Today's guest didn't just survive. She healed, she grew, and she decided to tell the truth. Welcome back to the Purpose Pursuit Podcast, where we talk about real life, real growth, and real purpose. This isn't about perfection, it's about resilience. If you ever felt labeled, judged, or broken by your past, this episode's for you. Make sure you subscribe, share this with someone who needs it, and let's get into it. Before people knew your story, before labels like Strong, Survivor, or even Teen Mom were attached to you, who was Domonique to the core?
Dominique is just a simple orange mouth girl, and I like family, friends. I like to have a good time. I think I'm funny. Um, I'm just a regular old girl. So before people knew my name, I was just your regular orange mouth girl.
Mm.
Trying to figure out life. I was a career student, and why I say career student because I have majored in so many things that have nothing to do with each other, and we're just trying to figure out. That's nothing. I didn't. Right now, I'm at this path where I just let God have His way, because every time I decide to plan some way, He takes me a whole nother route. So I'm just here.
Yeah. Did you go to Sherwood?
No.
You didn't? I went to Sherwood.
No. I did go to Airways.
Okay.
So we would have been battling each other.
Yeah, wow.
Airways. I went to Airways, and it was tradition in our family to go to Melrose. So I did 1 year in Melrose, and then Mom was like, "We got the tradition out the way. Let's get you over." But I originally graduated from Wooddale.
Okay. So did you feel safe where you grew up?
Yeah. Orange Mound back then wasn't the Orange Mound that we know now.
Mm-hmm.
Orange Mound back then was everybody owned their houses, and it was about family. Everybody. I was at a house where all the grandkids was at, and then next door was my auntie.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the neighbors next door. We knew the neighbors across the street. So it wasn't like it was now. It was what they call the tradition Orange Mound back in the day when I was there.
It's a village back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't considered the hood back then or anything like that. It was Orange Mound, and for real, I was raised with grandparents who I thought was rich until I realized they wouldn't. And my granddaddy did it like real good. He used to have TVs in every single room, including the bathroom. It was a bath. It was a telephone in every room where he would listen to everybody's phone calls through the whole thing. And so yeah, I didn't grow up as thinking I was in a hood. I was just in Orange Mound.
Yeah.
So you're just proud to be from Orange Mound.
Yeah. So you said you thought you was rich. One of the things that come to my mind is, back then, we were rich.
Mm.
Our grandparents and relatives, they were rich in wisdom.
Yeah, but my granddaddy looked it too. My granddad wore every ring on every finger.
Yeah.
He wore every chain that he owned on around his neck. His nickname was Candy Man.
Okay.
When it came to Christmas, when it came as far as our grandparents and everything, it was huge Christmas and things of that nature. So yeah, my granddaddy only drove a van or a Lincoln.
Yeah.
He was that. So for a long time, we just thought they had money because that's how it looked like it was, So we never knew that it was a struggle if it was, and that was pretty cool. So
people often see who someone becomes, but not the environment that shaped them. What was your childhood like behind closed doors?
Behind closed doors. So what a lot of people and they learn in the book is that I actually wasn't raised by my father. It was a period of time on chapter 1. It's called Who's Your Daddy? And the reason it's called Who's Your Daddy is because I came in when my parents had divorced. Apparently, I was born during the divorce, and my mom had remarried. And so, for a period of time, my stepdad is who I thought was my dad. And I never knew that anything else different. Everybody's names was last name was different, but of course, as a child, we don't question those different things. Um, so, as my childhood, my mom struggled a whole lot. So growing up, we did. I was at a different school every year for the most part. I do know how it feels to be evicted from a house. I know how it feels to come home and everything is out. Um, and so, great mother who was struggling, but we had a man in the house who just couldn't provide and sustain on certain things. And so, yeah, as a child behind doors, I think I've took some of those things with me as an adult, which I learned once I started kind of getting in counseling and everything. Is the reason why I'm such a, I won't say as an alpha type of woman, but I look at men in a totally different way when it comes to providing and leading. Is because what I saw growing up was mama being the one who was the breadwinner. So those are things I seen back door, and those are things that I later realized that some of your childhood trauma does follow you as an adult.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was closed doors. But in hindsight, we looked like we was, just like any other family, just put together. I was a quartet baby as well.
Okay.
So church was 3 times a day. That was a 3 times a day thing. So love quartets. But I'm a PK kid on both sides. My mom's a preacher. My dad is a preacher. My stepdad was a preacher as well. So it was regular church. Then it was a quartet main program. Then it was a program at night. And then at the end of the night, they ended at the kettle. So yeah, I couldn't wait till I got a car and was out of there.
So you said you talked a little bit about trauma and understanding or realizing that childhood trauma can translate over to adult life. Like, um, what made you kind of realize that was kind of affecting you, and you felt the need to actually like go to counseling to kind of talk to somebody?
um, so I don't discuss much. Well, growing up, I didn't discuss much to a lot of people that was going on because a lot of times other people got things going on, and me bury you with my problems, and you got problems. You can't help me with my problems, so it just kind of became a thing where I was always to myself. I'm the baby on both sides, mama and dad side. And so my sisters, we have a age gap where my sisters was 9 years apart. So a lot of times growing up, I was at home by myself. And so I used to write in a journal every day, my diary. If you wanted to know anything about me, you found my diary. And so, which makes sense as to now to write a book. But for the most part, when it came to, I'm sorry, I had kind of got a look confused.
Right.
For the most
About the
part,
trauma, and
about
then
the trauma.
realizing you need to talk to somebody because it spilled over into your adult life.
The depression started hitting really hard. Thoughts that I shouldn't have was starting to hit a whole lot. Sometimes I thought, world would be okay without little Dominique. So even though no one was ever taught as far as therapy, I knew I needed to talk to someone. So yeah, I started doing therapy when things started getting really, really heavy on me.
Mm,
So yeah.
okay. Some people get to be kids for a long time, and others have responsibilities show up early. When did you realize life wasn't going to be light for you?
I was pregnant at 16.
Okay.
Um, I got pregnant at 16, and so I had to grow up really early. I talk about in chapter 2 where it's called Trapped, the ways of how I got pregnant. But when I had my son, I had him junior year going into senior year. And so 3 weeks out there having him, I had my first job. And so immediately I had to grow up. And my first job was at a nightclub, 25 and up. My sister managed a nightclub. At first, I started off just waitressing during the daytime. That wasn't getting no money. And so they put me at night. And then the rule was supposed to be at midnight, I was supposed to be gone. But at midnight is when everything was going on. And so I felt myself working and getting off of work at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and still trying to go to school at 6 in the morning. And still trying to be a mom, a new mom. And my senior year, my mom quit working all my senior year because the whole goal was to still graduate. So my mom kept my son for my senior year while I go to school. But I had started getting to a point I was skipping school just to go to sleep. Mm. I would go to my sister's house, and I knew my classes that I needed to graduate. I'm like, hey, wake me up at this time, because I was so tired from trying to work, and I was trying to juggle. And so, and responsibility came really, really fast. So still, like I said, I was dealing with a family who we still financially couldn't, wasn't making ends meet on a regular. So once I did graduate, I enrolled myself into college. Still didn't know what I wanted to be. I just knew now I had a child, I got to be somebody. And so when I got into college, on August 20, my mom came to me and said, August 26, 27, we got to be at the house. I was 17. And I don't know if I didn't take it serious or anything, but I went to work one night, came back home, all my stuff was packed up. And I asked the question, like, well, where are we going? My mom was like, see if your sister got room for you over there. And I realized at 17, I was homeless. Mm. And I had a check I had just got from Southwest for books for $930. And I took that check and I went and moved in. When I called, my sister already at the time had her kids, her family. Was another me and another child to me just seemed like another burden. So I took my check, and the extended stay right here off of Kirby and Quince, they had just built it. I moved in over there, and I was staying there for $300 a week with my child. And so the big thing is I had to learn how to survive very early. And at this time, my dad still was kind of in and out. Still really hadn't developed a relationship with what a lot of people don't know. I didn't become a daddy's girl until I was like well in my 20s. So I stayed there. On my 18th birthday, I had already did all the research as far as apartment and everything of what I was going to need. And on my 18th birthday, I got up and applied for my first apartment on my birthday. Left there, made it down Riverdale, and they called me and was like, you approved. So I got my first apartment on my 18th birthday, and from there I just been on my own, and it's just been trying to figure it out. So,
yeah. What does that do? Because I mean, basically, you were still a kid. Right? Were you? You said 17. Were you out of school at 17?
Yes, I had already graduated.
Okay.
I had just graduated. So we're in August. School. I hadn't probably been out of school long at all. Maybe a month or two at this time. And so, my birthday is September the 8th. So you see how close that was to each other. And so, I mean, what it does to you is, all I knew was
Forces you to grow.
I had a kid. I had a kid. So you had no choice.
Your father was a very public and controversial figure. That kind of visibility affects the whole family, not just the person on camera. How did that shape your life or identity growing up?
So I watched my dad start from, I would say, from the bottom a little bit. He's always did radio as far as I knew when I was a baby. Is what my mom and them used to tell me. But when our relationship really, really started getting developing, he was just on radio. And it was just at times I was just going up there just to say hey or to get some money or, whatever the case is. And it started, and I remember one time he was having a conversation about relationships. And I thought he was telling that all around. I was like, who you been dating? And I was like, who you been dating? And he was like, you know what? Get the headphones. Get the headphones. So I got the headphones and it became my thing. So I knew every time that I was coming to see my daddy to have my game face on because he was going to either try to throw me on camera or he was going to try to get me on the radio. And so that it didn't to me, it wasn't a big thing. Um, because it was just to me, it was just his job. It was just something he was doing. At that time, he hadn't became cussing pastor. To me, it was embarrassing because right then he was Daddy Bear
Mm-hmm.
and he was a lover, and I was just like, oh my god. I think he had like the Bear thongs, where the thongs and at the crotch it was his face, and
Oh
I
my
was
goodness.
like, this is so like who is buying this crap? Like, so to me it was more like, dude, chill out.
Yeah.
Like so, but as we got older and he became bigger than what he was, people and what people don't know is him being on TV really was supposed to be a daddy and daughter's thing. That's kind of how the TV came about, and I wasn't, that wasn't my level. I wasn't trying to do that. For one, people was doing too much mean stuff, and I said I was an orange mad girl. I would be ready to fight, and he was just like, "This stuff still making you mad?" I'm like, "Yes," you know. And so when they got to a point of learning that his triggers was me, then it's when the identity part started to change. People learned that if you wanted to get any reaction out of him was to talk about me. So growing up, especially in my 20s and everything of that nature, I became topics of situations had nothing to do with me. You know, every time he would argue with somebody, especially with a woman, it would come back. You know, I had people create Facebook groups. Is she a male or is she a female? Um, I had stalkers, not one, not two, I had like six stalkers. Um, Things was always around. You know, political people who supposed to be big people had my name in their mouth for no reason. You know, I couldn't watch my dad's show on certain levels because somebody's gonna say something inappropriate about me. You know, and so growing up, it became a thing where I used to be like, just chill out. Like I really wanted him to not be the cousin pastor. I really didn't want it because everything about me was becoming too big, and that wasn't what I was asking for. Um, One time I tried to move away to California. He sabotaged it now. Um, that was a mug. He sabotaged it, but it was to the point. I think he really understood the levels of what it was going to. Is because right out there, I was trying to move to California. I came back, and while getting my son dressed, my routine had switched up that day. Usually, I would just drop my son off at school and keep him going. This time, I was running behind, so I dropped him off at school and came back to finish getting dressed. And then I walked into somebody in my bedroom, and so even that still wasn't enough. You know, still that whole situation became content. And, you know, it was, he put the guy face on TV. He put his whole rap sheet on TV. Learned that some of the people who the guy that was in my house was, I knew some of his people. You know, it was things like that. And it just became way too much. It was to the point where, and it wasn't, I don't never think he was trying to do it intentionally to hurt me. I think he was a father that was bragging about his daughter because I was doing a lot of things at that time. And you know, he was trying to help in kind of ways that he would. So yeah, it that was my toughness that was coming up. You know, that was the backstory of what people didn't see.
Yeah.
You know, it had some perks to it, but it had a lot of things that had to come with it, and I just dealt with it.
Now you said like the triggers were kind of to get at him, but through you. Like how did all that start? I mean, why would they want to get at him like that?
Well, so he had his show. You know, he was very raw and unfiltered on his show. And he also allowed people to call in to the show, which as Memphis people, what we'll do is check all day long. And so that didn't give him nothing. Of course, and he'll check them back and give them something. It was their entertainment. But one time a guy had said, you know, that's why I effed your daughter, you know. And you see my daddy go from entertainment to daddy, and jackets start coming off, and he, you know, and they figured out, oh, if we want to mess with him, just talk about his daughter. And so it became a thing on the regular where a guy would call in there, be like, that's why I effed your daughter. You know, I had these some political guys who caught themselves one day having a did a live, and they're talking about my dad, and the guy goes in and was like, yeah, that's why I had his daughter had it like this, and all these people had no clue who it was, never met, and that became that became a thing.
Mm.
And so, you know, when it came to dating, that was pretty kind of slim to none for me on a lot of levels. And I think when it came to, I think that's how the stalking became, because maybe some guys probably wanted to approach me, but my dad was so intimidated, I guess. I don't know how, but six stalkers is a lot. And, and I know them verbatim, and I go through it and I tell them, in the book, these are things that I had to deal with. It was just me and my son. Apartments I couldn't do because people were paying attention. In apartments we pay attention. It's just her and the kid. No man's coming over there. For the most part. So yeah, it became where I was always having to get to a point of I had to carry. I had to start being my own protector on some things.
Got it. When people hear your last name, they often think they already know your story. What assumptions do you run into the most?
That I hated my dad. That's been like that's the biggest one. In the later years, people learned that what they learned from the book, my dad was having many strokes on the brain. And so he didn't have that part in him, that part of the conscious where it said you're doing too much, until he done did too much. And our breakdown came when he actually did a show on me. And so that's the hardest thing that I think I've ever had to deal with when it came to him. And I don't know if, even though I said that I had forgave him for it, for a long time, I think I never did. We never got back to who we really were before that show. And so, and as he was getting sicker and sicker, he wasn't letting anybody know how sick he was. And it became, our roles change from him being the protector over me. It was me trying to protect him. And so a lot of times I would be like, just sit down, like chill. Like it was a lot of times I had to take his phone and no, you can't do the show today. But I was the only person in his life that could calm him down or get him somewhere. Not a woman, not his wife. It would, when he went to the hospital, when he would go to the hospital and they want to keep him, my dad was scared to death of hospitals. He was scared to death of dying by himself. And a lot of times a doctor would actually call me to get him to stay. And I'd be like, Daddy, so you're gonna leave me as an orphan child? We had our own lingo, and so yeah, that would be the hugest one, that me and my dad didn't like each other or didn't hate each other, because in those later years they did see a couple of times it spilled over into social media, but everything about my dad's life, he spilled it over into social media. And so it made it seem like, okay, you can't have an argument with your dad, or you can't, y'all cannot be if y'all fight, that means y'all hated each other. And so yeah, that was be the hugest one.
Yeah. Do you think you feel more misunderstood than understood?
No, I never cared about actually being understood or not. I was just trying to save him for himself. Um, so no, at that time I never thought about being misunderstood. I just thought that my daddy word was a gospel to them, and they didn't realize, look, dementia and all that stuff was starting to set in, and he was not gonna let you know to give give you the ounce of thinking any weakness. And so everybody just took his word from it. Sometimes I would be at work and I see him go on a rant on his page, and I'd be like, what did I do to deserve this today? And I'll call and I'd be like, dude. And I used to call the nurses, take his phone. I'm on my way up here. It was different things of that nature. And my daddy didn't like nobody tell him to do nothing. And so that was a lot of battle too. So sometimes I had to go into daddy girl mode and be like, look, you doing too much. Like, you are starting to cause too much on me. And he'll chill for a minute. And as soon as somebody else pissed him off, that's kind of all he knew.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You fought battles most people never see: cervical cancer and now lupus. When your body has become battlefields, it changes everything. How did those experiences reshape your relationship with yourself?
With myself, um, I don't think it ever reshaped me. I think with my cancer, I said God allowed me not to be in any pain. I had no clue that I even had cervical cancer until it was time to do the surgery. That's how God worked on that. Um, and I tell you, I go into that details in the book as well. Like, literally had no clue. Know I had went for annual. I remember it get coming back abnormal, but I was still young, and I think I had called myself having a little boyfriend at the time, and I was dramatic. I changed my number, not thinking that a doctor or not anybody needed the number, and so they couldn't find me. They couldn't get in touch with me, and I just happened to be at my mom's house one day because she had got sick or something, laying in the bed with her, and the doctors called her phone, and that when they called, they was like, "Do you check your mail?" I was like, I stay in an apartment. That thing is like all the way down the street. Like as I go when I know I need something, like, we've been trying to get in touch with you. We've been trying to do this. We've been this, and I hadn't do nothing. She was like, "I need you to stop everything you're doing right now and go to the emergency room and and go to Methodist now and give blood. You got emergency surgery tomorrow." I'm like, "What? For what?" Like, and it went like, "We're gonna explain everything, but right now we need you to stop everything you're doing right now and go to the doctor now." And it went that fast. And so I learned that I had cervical cancer, and then I learned that it was that they had to do they wanted to do surgery, and and there was a probability of that they can get it all through the surgery, or it was gonna be other things I had to do. Thank God it all went as far as it went, as far as the surgery, successful, no pain. I was in recovery for like 6 weeks after the surgery, but I didn't go through much with the cervical cancer. Now, the lupus hit me a little more harder because the lupus came out of nowhere. I was diagnosed with lupus back when no one ever heard of lupus. Um, didn't know what it did. So just one day, sleep, and I woke up, and what I thought was ringworms all over my arms. My mouth is hurting. My tongue is swollen. My body is in this type of pain that I can't understand. And so what I was thinking was, it's something from the cancer. I had just made it to an age where I was no longer on insurance, health insurance, and on my mom's health insurance. And I remember the first thing is off top was my mouth was just in this agony of pain. And so I go to the dentist's office, and I remember them can't do anything for me because I had no insurance. And this lady just prayed over me while I was there. And I still couldn't figure out what was going on. So that was more depressing, learning that I had lupus versus the cancer. And so once I actually learned that I had the diagnosis, I was pretty much sent with a pamphlet, and I had to figure it out. I became a test dummy for a long time, is what I used to think. Because every time I went to the doctor, they were just taking blood, and I used to be like, they really don't know what the heck they doing.
Just practice.
Every time they came, I was getting another refill, and it had got to a point I was on 9 medications. And then when you look at 9 medications and like 6 of them says the symptoms is depression, you wonder why the heck you're so depressed, right? So no, it never took me from it. But what I learned was I learned my body. I'm not on any medication, and that is not by doctor recommendation. That is kind of just for me. It seems like my body does a whole lot better not being on any medication, but just getting what vitamins and nutrients your body is supposed to get. So I take versus taking 9 medical pills, I take 9 vitamins or something, with something in it. And so I still have flurs. I still have bad days and good days, but they're not as big. And I could show you pictures right now where you couldn't believe that's me.
Mm.
And then the next day I get up and I look like this. So that's God. And so I became an advocate for lupus a long time ago. And so it became a thing where when women seen it on Facebook, they would inbox me and say, "How do I deal with this?" Or "What do you do?" And I know a lot of people who has it a whole lot worse than me. So, it saddens me every time I hear somebody who has passed from lupus. But no, I don't have it as worse as anybody else. So it can't deter me from, you got people that's really, really going through it. I can still get up and I can look the part most days.
So, one of the things that I kind of go by is we without a shadow of a doubt, when we're going through something, we know who we can count on.
Hmm.
We know who's going to show up. We know who's not going to show up. What was it like? Like, did some people not show up that you didn't expect not to show up, and then I'm sure some people did show up. Like who showed up? Obviously, I'm not asking for names, but like, were there any that showed up that you wasn't expecting, or those that kind of fell off that you thought were going to be there?
Oh, I always had a big support.
Mm-hmm.
That's never been a thing. Mom, sister, my big sister, we're best friends. Even though we're 9 years apart, best friends.
Mm-hmm.
I never had the not support. And even with my dad, I knew whatever it is that I needed to get done. That was my daddy's ego. What you need? That was his thing, And so and I milked it. And I ain't gonna lie, I milked it. I think every girl deserves to be a daddy girl. Every girl deserves to ever be a daddy's girl, because I knew the softer side and everything when it came to my daddy. When I say I used it all. And so, no, I always had a big support system, when it came to anything. So it seemed like I went through a lot of things on my own, but I was kind of, I wasn't, they didn't hand anything to me, but I had a lot of people to give advice. So, look, I told you, this is what I told you. Now, if you choose to go that route, you learn the hard way. And I was a little bit of a hard headed, so I've had to figure some things out.
There's physical pain, but there's also emotional exhaustion that comes with chronic illness. What did the season teach you about real strength?
um, what I learned is be careful what you ask God for. You never hear me pray to God to give me strength. Because when you ask for it, He will give it to you. And I take that, I say a lot of things is, a lot of things that I thought was for bad was meant for good. Me being a teenage mom, I thought that was a big thing, a huge thing. But I think God knew that I had things that was going to go on in my life that I needed to be able to live for somebody else because it wasn't about me. And so, and he knew those was gonna come very early. I say a lot of times, if I didn't have my kids, it'll be, I'll either be in jail or I'll be gone. It gets to that point. But now, something when you have kids, you think like, you think. Um, but and as far as strength, I just kind of went with it. I just kind of went with the flow of what was going on. I didn't know where my biggest strength was going to be needing until last year. Last year has been the most traumatizing year probably of my life. I can't, and to tell you the truth and to be real with you, looking at a picture of myself before February 24th, I look like to me, I look like a totally different person. I'm a totally different person. So this last year, I just been trying to figure my life out. Um, I learned of a lot of people who I thought was in my corner was not. So not only did I lose my dad, I lost a lot of people in 2025. Um, and that I'm still grieving for. Sometimes I'm still angry about. Still, sometimes I figure like, how did I not see that? So I have been made the villain on a lot of things, but I instantly learned that when my biggest protector was gone, that now I'm the one who has to protect myself. And so that has become a strength of any other. And sometimes people try to play in your face and act like you're the person that's wrong. But where I'm at right now is my feelings matters. My voice matters. Um, and I should be free to feel however I want to feel on any good getting day. Because there's some days still with my grieving process that I'm mad at my dad. I'm angry with my dad. I'm sad. And if you have not lost a parent, um, people won't understand it. And so, and So losing a parent, I always say, is just like having a rope that was connected to you that you never knew that was there. And once they're gone, you realize you're just out here dangling. And it's a very out of body experience. And so I had to write. I had to get it out because the grief and the noise and the drama that came along with my name and everything that came, the spotlight that kind of came on me, it was either I was going to drink myself to death or crash out. And so, but still at the end of the day, I had boys. My kids was always in the back of my head. Every time I do a post or a video or anything, because I have a 20-year-old who sees everything. You know what I'm saying? It's always in the back of my head. That keeps me sane. That keeps me going where it's like, hey, you got to chill out. You can't crash out. No, you can't cuss that person out. You can't go that far. So, I don't ask for strength no more. I ask for grace and I ask for grace and you just show me the direction. That's where we hit now.
You're a little bit more careful what you ask
Yeah,
for.
very careful what I ask for.
Yeah, we ask for things not knowing that he ain't gonna give it to us, but he gonna put you in situations to kind of obtain what you're looking for. So if you asking for strength, then he's gonna like test your resolve.
Yes,
to get to that strength.
definitely.
So yeah, no, totally get it. That kind of leads me to just your faith. I mean, just listening to your story. What kept your faith intact? Some people would probably denounce God and just move on, but what kept it intact?
God's always been a thing. That's never. And I was, like I said, I was raised in church, and um, I don't even think it has anything to do with being raised in church. I just know I've been in situations where could nobody had got me out but God. You know, as a single mom, I could tell you times that I've struggled. I've always was working 2 and 3 jobs, going to college, back and forth to college because I got into this career and it still wasn't enough to do what it needs to do. So I got into this career, and sometimes, and when my lupus had started getting really, really heavy, it had started getting to a point my lupus had started coming up with new symptoms. I was going through a place where my face was swell up. I would wake up in the morning, I couldn't tell you how I was gonna look. So I couldn't work. So I started I became very entrepreneurship, which is bedding in my family to me. But I was always trying to think of the next business move, because I still had to provide. But I would wake up and my lips would be huge, or my face was huge, or my ankles was hurting, or I was in a flare that day, or I don't have any energy to even get up that day. All I want to do is sleep. My favorite thing to do is sleep. So um, with those things, it just became where I was always in survival mode. I have not gotten out of survival mode yet.
You still consider yourself?
I think I'm still in
Really?
survival mode. I'm still in survival
So
mode.
how do you think you would get out of survival mode? Like what do you think takes you out of survival mode?
I don't know, because I haven't got there yet. Um, I'm always looking for the next. My son is in college now. All I could ever have, my biggest gift has been that I have gave him my opportunity that I didn't have to, to give. He's in college. He ain't got to worry about no job. I pay his bills at his. Now he has his own apartment at school. I take care of his house. I take care of the money in his pocket. His little. He want to make his money on his certain things, but I teach him every single thing that wasn't taught, that I feel like wasn't taught to me. And I'm giving him the ability to grow up, but not so fast. Like, it wasn't thrown on me. Like, I didn't know anything about credit, bank accounts, all that extra stuff like that. But then I learned this, as a kid. I mean, as an adult, my parents couldn't teach me what they didn't know either. And so I have to forgive myself on certain things, because sometimes we blame our childhood on parents who just didn't know. They only can do what the best they can with the best they know. My dad suck at money, but he'll splash it. He can make it, but can he save it? No. It was a lot of things of those. So to go back to the question, I'm sorry, because I'll go all the way around. Say the question again.
No, no, you actually hit on it just right. So
Okay.
yeah, you hit on it just right. But kind of want to jump into the book.
Go ahead.
So in your book, you speak openly about ignoring red flags in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back now, why do you think sometimes we kind of ignore our own intuition?
I think more for me, I think some people are just scared to be by themselves. You can see it, and we're not lying to ourselves. But if we step on it and we talk about it, then that person leaves. And I think back then I was so used to being by myself that I couldn't be by myself. And so yeah, a lot of flags was ignored. Um, and then some of the stuff I learned that we in toxic relationship, you always want to blame the other person, but we don't ever take accountability for our own toxic. I was toxic as well. You can't ever say that as a woman who probably wasn't raised with a man in their life, so you can't miss nothing you ain't never had. It's a lie, because I didn't realize that I miss having a dad to say, know your worth, that you're beautiful, that you this, that you can do, how to handle certain things. So what I did was got into a relationship where that man became that father figure over me. And the problem with that is when somebody becomes that much controlling over your life, then they love you to death, and then you're a piece of their property. There's something that they've schooled, and I learned that the hard way. So when the first hit, and you realize a relationship I've been in, I had to fight a man.
Mm.
Why is that? Then you have to look at yourself. And then when it comes into where you get to a near death experience, where I talk about in the book, you have to realize that you played a whole lot in that part. So I have a chapter called "Karma's a Bitch" in there, because he wasn't just a toxic person. I was a toxic person as well. And so I take on ownership for it. But now when you know better, you do better.
Right.
That's where I'm at with it. So yeah, I don't ignore the red flags. You can't play in my face. And if it don't look like something, I'm gonna say something. And so yeah, I've gotten a whole lot better. I'm good with being by myself now.
Yeah, you kind of made me think about something that's brewing for me
Mm-hmm.
for the future. Some things that I want to talk about,
Uh-huh.
but just listen. It takes a lot to acknowledge. Hey, you probably causing some of this, because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, you deserve this, all him," but okay, but there's two in this situation,
Mm-hmm.
and so this kind of thing that I want to talk about during this podcast. I'm not making it about it, but you just made me think of it. It's uh your type is your trauma.
Mm-hmm.
If you really think about it, because your trauma, comes from childhood, and that's kind of what your safe space is.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of gravitate to what you know.
Yeah.
And so, but a lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people don't know that they're in the trauma. And,
They don't.
yeah. And
They
so
don't.
it's like it's just an endless cycle. But the thing that's paramount for actually learning or understanding and realizing that you have some trauma that you need to get worked out is if you don't, you spread that to the next generation.
You definitely do. And it was a lot of things that I blame myself for, that I learned. Like I said, it took me, crazy part is, it took me 35 years to realize that at 35 years at that age, sitting on somebody's couch, that I realized that I was molested as a kid. It never hit me, because when you're younger, and because I always been a pretty girl, but I was made up. I was at 10. You thought I was 14. I was developed very early, and usually girls that are developed very early are the first one you say that's the fast one. And I can remember even when I got pregnant at 16, like somebody said, that didn't surprise me. That happened, even when I wasn't the one that was that was out there. And so when a situation occurred, and I talk about that also in the book, when that situation had occurred, I blamed me. Did I do something? Did I turn wrong? Did I do something to make this grown person feel some type of way? And I brushed it off. And my mom is to a point where she's trying to read my book, but she can't get past chapter one because that part is chapter one. And but she learned of that situation when I was a kid. And like I said, if you ever wanted to know my secrets, you found my diary. And that's how she found it when I was younger. And I remember sitting on the couch at therapy. And I remember sitting on the couch in therapy, and my homework that day was to remember the very first time you felt unprotected. And I went back to that moment. And when I went back to that moment, and I was like, as a grown me now, as a grown man, I was like, hold up. And the crazy part is, to the point of now, I that person, I can't stand even see the name, because that person later on came back in my life like nothing had happened. And it was never talked about. It was nothing ever done about it. Um, and so you realize those traumas start to affect you as an adult. And so yeah, I advise everybody to go to some type of therapy or counseling. I had a real good one. She be on it. She was on it. She had homework for me. I used to be like, hold on. I didn't think about this.
So you encourage therapy?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely encourage mental. Because we can't get everything out. And sometimes the crazy, it's not crazy in our head, but once we say it out loud, you realize, oh wow, maybe I am the problem, or maybe I was the situation. And sometimes as a single mom and doing everything by when I do everything by myself, I don't know if I'm doing everything right. I know I'm trying to do everything to the best of my ability, but I don't know if I'm making the right turn when I do certain things. And so that's really what works when you have a partnership, because you don't know. But I was never given that chance to have a partnership where I could say yay or nay. My household don't run without me. I work a job where I run everything at my job. So now in my later years now, where I say is, I don't even want to, in my relationship, I don't want to run it. And if he can't run it, then we can't be together. At some point you got to be like, because as a woman, we want to be in our feminine era, but we have not been given the opportunities to be in our feminine era. I'm in an era where, your life don't move unless I move it. My son's, he's in college. He's doing, he's played football. He's doing everything that he wants to do as a kid, but that don't happen without mama. You know, that little one, he's freely and fine, and think life is just as innocent as it is. That's all because of mama. But they don't know that. At night, my grieving is when they go to bed and I'm hyperventilating because I can't breathe, and I'm trying to hide my cries. Um, you when you by yourself and you trying to figure things out. What's the next movement? What we got to do is we gonna have enough money for this. That child gonna have a problem in the situation. Something gonna come up with this one. And when it's just you don't know if you're doing everything right. And so that's where the mental part come in, because you be like, dang, it had got to a point where I was like, man, if I wasn't here, I wouldn't even have to deal with all this, you know? And that's where I was like, now I need to talk to somebody, because can't nobody take care of them boys like me. They daddies can't take care of them boys like me. They life, how dare the selfishness come through that maybe I shouldn't be here, because it wouldn't just affect me. It'll affect them. Their whole life will go to a shambles. So I had to go get some help.
You survived an experience that most people couldn't even imagine, being held at gunpoint for hours. How did that night change you internally?
Um, hmm, how did it change me? Um, it still took a little while after that night. I still relied on my faith. I literally just did a women empowerment. Spoke with some women the other day, and it was called More Than Enough, and it was really really great. but it was a lot of women that was talking about being more than enough. And I said, I had to talk to you. Can I be raw? Can I be me? And they gave me the space. And I said, I got to tell you about a time where I didn't think I was more than enough. And I had to go into that. I told that exact story verbatim. And I think it was the very first time my mom had actually heard the story verbatim, because I paid attention when her hands kind of went into her hands. But yeah, I was in a relationship that I shouldn't have been in, and we had a big age difference. I was 19, he was 37, I think, at that time. I grew up in that relationship. Um, he became a big father figure over me, not in the way you think it would be, but he taught me a whole lot of things. Um, Taught me a lot of things when it came to money. Taught me a lot of things when it came to just business. Was the first person showed me how to shoot a gun. A lot of things came from him, but it became a very controlling situation. Um, and that night, the it was starting to before that night actually happened. It was other nights that was, I say, warning was coming before destruction. But that night particularly, I don't know if he was on something or not. But we had an argument, got into a fight. Um, I'm trying to say it without telling you all the details so you can read the book, because it's verbatim. It's very detailed in the book. But yeah, into a fight where I fought him till I couldn't fight him no more. And at gunpoint, he wanted to know every time that he thought I had cheated on him. And it became a pistol playing situation. Put the pillow over your face. Um, it became a lot. It sounds like a Lifetime movie when you actually hear it. I promise you. Like, just somebody playing with you with a gun and want you to put chapstick on their lips. And, those things, like, for 4 hours. But through those, I prayed the entire time. Like, every time I thought it was for the be, I would just pray out loud. And the more I would pray, um, the angrier he would get. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what, do what you got to do, because I'm through talking. I had to make my peace with what was going to happen. I had said my last prayers. I thought that was it. Um, and you learn at the end of how I get away is bizarre. But I got away.
Okay. You teasing for the book, huh?
I got away.
I'm like, okay, how did she get out of this?
Get away? Yeah, I know. All right. Yeah, it was God. It was all God. That's all I can say. And so he gave me a lot of situations where you ain't had no choice but to rely on me. I am real, like, that situation. And even for that, he act as if he didn't remember what had happened. And parts of me believe that he didn't, because even when I did get away, to come back to my house to come get my things, for a long time, he was still asleep at my house while everything was gone. When the police came back, the gun, he had made up the bed and left the gun on the bed, still in the bed. It was certain things that make me feel like that maybe he was on something at night. I don't know, but every New Year's, I'm very timid. So on New Year's, I'm either at church or I'm at home.
The right place to be. All right. Survival like that forces you to reevaluate life. What did that experience teach you about your worth?
That I ain't have to deal with it. I mean, love is not supposed to hurt. When people say tough love, I love when I watch Karamo's show. He always say, love is not supposed to be tough. And I thought about that when people say tough love. Love is not supposed to be tough, because it just taught me that I know what I want. I know how I want to feel. And it gave me the ability after my last relationship that I took time for myself. So for the last 4 years, I've been by myself. And through that 4 years, I went through therapy. I've been by myself. And I'm okay. So a person is supposed to come in and add to, not take away. And if I feel like you coming in to disturb my peace, then now I'm really good at saying, yeah, it's been real. It's been real. I'm cool with it. We ain't even got to be arguing. It ain't got to be a bad thing. Like I'm real cool with it. Like, and I just feel like my time will come, and I feel like my dad had done threw all the men away. They was all scared. Like I used to be like he was the biggest player hater. I used to tell him all the time he was the biggest player hater. Um, and then so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been a whirlwind. But even when I hear the stuff, when I read my book and you remember the Tyler Perry movie where it just seemed like she was just having a bad day after one after the other. That's just how the chapter seems like it was just happening. But in my life, it was just like I knew other women have dealt with this and we just keep it a secret. But my thing is, how dare we keep overcoming stuff and don't tell people what God has brought us through?
Yeah.
Because God is a jealous God, and He wants all the glory. He didn't put you through that and let you overcome and look this good for you not to tell nobody. He wants you to brag about Him.
Right.
And so, how dare do I wake up and have hair together, nails together, and not tell nobody that, baby, I don't look like nothing that I done been through? How dare? And so, no. And I'm in my truth. And my thing is when you hear your story told incorrectly so many times, you want to straighten it out. And my thing is you can't use my truth against me because I told you. I told you every secret that it was. I'm a complete open book. If somebody did something to me, you did it to me. If you didn't, you didn't. I'm a big girl. Um, I don't lie on anybody in this book. I don't tell anybody's story in this book except for mine. So any parts of anybody that's in the book is because you was there with me and she was with me, but I tell nobody's story but mine. I tell nobody's truth but mine. And so when social media is coming at people, you can't come at me by my truth because it's not funny no more. I already told you. So what we talking about?
Right.
You can't come for me. So now you pick other things. Oh, she wear too much makeup. So now, is it pretty? Because I did it. Like I really did it today. Stuff you can't come for me on. So the crazy part is the girl that my dad was always trying to get me to be when doing entertainment with him is I had to be when he passed away.
You can't make this up. Writing a book like this means reopening wounds most people spend years trying to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you feel the story needed to be told now?
I didn't know. I'm gonna tell you this. I so many times reneged on putting this book out that year, and see, I had got offered the book deal before he had passed. I mean, before he ever got sick and everything. And at the time, I was like, oh yeah, I always wanted to write a book to help women, but I'm not ready now. And after he passed, maybe a month or two later, she was like, "You're ready." I was like, "I'm ready," not knowing that the book was gonna end with him dying. I tell people, when you read this book, is raw, it's for real, it's true. It's not a fairy tale. It's no happy ever out there. The book ends with my dad gone. So you can't make this up. Because it was so many last year. I feel like that's all I kept saying was like because it was a domino effect of everything that was happening. You know, I kept feeling like the year before that something huge was about to happen, and I went to therapy and I kept praying because I kept feeling like the crazy part is I kept feeling like it was a storm that was really, really for to happen. And I had learned of things of my dad that I was ashamed of and that I was trying to hide and that I was trying to keep close to me to not even get spilled over. And then when those things started to happen, I really knew like I was carrying his guilt and the things that he was going through, I was starting to carry it. Like every time he would say something to somebody else, I was carrying it. Um, and so a it became where it was just like once he went sick, it was huge when he got sick, and it was trying to keep that covered and was trying to keep that closed in. And then when he passed, it was the drama started immediately at the hospital, and it went from there. And then once we got through the funeral, then his best friend who eulogized him got killed 3 days later.
Mm.
And then here we had again another funeral. And then right after his funeral, then it was his birthday. And then it was something, it was like a domino effect of things that was just constantly happening. And on Father's Day, I'm arguing with women. The wives and the side chicks are becoming friends, and everybody's trying to prove to everybody who loves who. And now I'm the target. And it just became like, what the heck is going on? I was like, you can't make this up. And I was like, so now I was just like, then you find yourself, and I'm just like, okay. Like, yeah, I gotta chill. Like, it's gotta, and I would just write. That's all I would do. Write, cry, drink. Write, cry, drink. And it's literally what my path had became. And, but I can't talk to you about a man who you probably hated. I can't talk to you about the grief that I love or how I love somebody because you hated him. So you just don't talk. He did you wrong. But to you, he messed up your life. But to me, my whole life is shattered. I can't tell you that because you don't accept it the same. You don't accept it the same. So I found that my grief became just in a book.
Yeah.
So I called myself trying to do grief counseling, but 1 hour just wasn't enough.
Was writing the book kind of like that release for you?
It was. It gave me the ability to talk freely, because in this book I talk freely. At first, it was supposed to be that I had a ghostwriter, and the ghostwriter didn't sound like me. I said, no, I needed you. Don't worry about it. I'll take it. And I end up just taking over, and I would find myself for hours just writing. And yeah, it became a book. Before I was like, I wrote a 12 chapter book. Like, I wrote like, it could have went longer. Tell me, it was getting to the point. It was like, hey, we got to shorten this book up. So yeah, and I wanted to honor him, and that was my huge thing too. I wanted to honor him, but I also wanted to humanize him, because people thought he was a monster, and he wasn't. People thought he was cold hearted, and he wasn't. They didn't know the other side of him. They didn't know the difference between Thaddeus Matthews and a cussing pastor. People didn't know that he hated being the cussing pastor. He hated how he hadn't hurt people. He hated the things that he had done, but mentally he couldn't do. My dad was severely depressed. My dad had aced out everybody in his family except for me. He had inherited everybody. And this show became his life. This show became only thing that he knew. This show became his diary. This show became everything over anybody. And that's why it was so hurtful when he did it to me, because I still thought that he can do this to anybody else, but it wouldn't happen to me. And when it did it to me, that's the hardest chapter that I talk about. Chapter 9. Mm-hmm. It's the hardest chapter that I had to do. And still to this day, it's a video that's out there that my dad did on me that I've never looked at, that I would never look at, that I couldn't even fathom. I caught 5 minutes of the ending on the date that he had did it, and just that 5 minutes crushed me. And in true Matthew style, I came back on him, and he used to say, no one could come at me like I could, because I was him. And I started to realize as I got older, I may have some of my daddy's ways. But my thing is just trying to change a negative into a positive. My daddy did too much for the city of Memphis that people forgot that, now it seems like now since the city has been going crazy, they miss him more because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. He
was your insight. The news would tell you itself. They watched his show to get their news a lot of times. And, people People would talk to him and give him all the juice. We couldn't go out to eat without somebody on the side. And they would find, if they couldn't get in touch with him, they would inbox me and they would try to get in touch. And I used to be like, look, I don't do this. Like literally. But I just feel like nobody's putting respect on his name. And to tell you the truth, the Matthews name ends with me and my sister and brother. My brother, if you was to see him, this would have definitely been him. But in 2020, he got COVID, had a stroke and a heart attack at 30-some years old. And so he's never been back to his main self. My sister is the shy one. But my dad was always trying to throw me out there. Even if it was negative, it was always trying to throw me out there because he used to say, when I die, my legacy is not supposed to end like this. And so now it's just trying to figure out how to way to honor my dad and carry on, but just change it into a positive. Like my identity is not him. Like not trying to be him. It's the reason why it's a book, not a show. I move how I want to move. I'm a lot like my dad. I do things my way. And so they're going to put some respect on my dad's name here in Memphis. That's where I'm at. They're going to have to put some respect on his name.
Yeah. So within the book, like what was the hardest thing that you wrote about that you hesitated on actually putting out?
It's a lot.
Like you're just like, I don't know if I can put this out.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a couple of chapters. I talk about the tape. I talk about how I found out, how it made me feel. I talk about his death. I talk about things I talk about a lot of things that I wasn't sure to put out. But I wouldn't have been truthful if I didn't. And that's what I was trying to do in this book is be truth. Like, I'm telling the truth on this things. I mean, some things you just can't make up. And some people does get hit in the crossfire in this book because I tell my story and this is things that you did to me that I had nothing to do with. So, and we don't care. We really don't. I'm just living in my truth. Like, I'm an older girl now. You know what I'm saying? Adults that lie, that's a type of disease I can't understand. Like, what are we lying for? And so my truth, I'm me. I when I go to speak, I need to be me. A cussing word or two may come out. It's in my nature. Do I talk about God? Yes. I am all around. I never pretend to be perfect. I never pretend to be a celebrity. I never knew I don't even think I knew the magnitude of where my father following went to until he passed. To me, it was just Memphis. It was just a local thing. But it shows as far as the success of how my book has been going, the magnitude of how far he did reach. So, yeah.
Okay. You described the book as making peace with the truth. What truths did you accept just to move forward?
In the book, I went back and at the end of every chapter, it's a letter to myself after every chapter. And so those are my truth. To get to where I am now and where I'm going, I got to forgive the old girl. And so some of those things I had to forgive myself because I can't tell you my truth and actually tell you how I feel on certain things and overcome it if I didn't forgive myself. I'm not perfect. I never pretend to be perfect. And for the imperfections that I did, I had to make amends with some people or I had to make amends with myself. And those are the things that I do in the book going forward to get to where I am. And I'm still going to make mistakes, but you know better. You do better when you know better. And shit, I'm just trying to get to them pearly gates like everybody else.
Everybody try to get there, right?
Try to get there.
We're going to do a little rapid fire, okay?
Okay.
One word that describes your past.
Crazy.
One word that describes your present.
Crazy.
Okay. All right. What does peace look like for you now?
Woo. What does peace look like? Um, but it's supposed to be one word, right? Um,
It doesn't have to be one word for this one.
just a day where everything goes right. Like
Okay.
a day where there's no problems.
Yeah.
Bills are paid, everything, no issues. That's peace right there.
Got it. All right. One boundary you refuse to break.
My peace.
One thing every woman needs to hear.
You're beautiful. You're more than enough. It's a lot of stuff. I can keep going. You a bad chick. You this. You could do it. You can keep going. You're more than enough. You're powerful. I could go
On and on, right?
Yeah, and we can do everything that a man can do, and we multiply everything we bring.
All right. What does happiness mean for you today?
Today, um, a day not crying. That's a day for me.
Got it. All right. So you made it through the rapid fire round.
Okay.
So after everything you've endured and overcome, victory probably looks different than it did years ago. What does winning in life mean to you today?
I definitely think I'm winning right now. Just just growing is the winning part. Evolving. Um, I'm learning this new girl. I'm still very new. In 10 days, it'll be a year. And so I can't tell you how that day is going to look for me right now. Um, my anxiety is very up about those days, but I like the fact of that I have evolved to. I just want positive and peace. I feel like drama has become my PTSD. Like I can't even watch movies that's got too much drama. Loving hip hop and everything, can't even do it no more. It's just too much for me a little bit. But then it's like you want to look at it a little bit, but no, it's just um I like the new path that I'm going. And if I can bless anybody on the way up, I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. When this book came about, I didn't know what the book was gonna bring. I had no clue if anybody was gonna buy it. I had no clue how it was gonna do. It was the biggest accomplishment that I've done to write a 12 chapter book. But now I'm liking being able to tell a story, and I encourage other people to tell their story. And I hope that them seeing me tell my truth give them ability to realize their truth, because I think it's only healing in the truth. If we can just be truthful with ourselves and say, hey, I was wrong, I did this, we can get past a lot of things in life. So if you can't say what you want to say, I'm big on write it down. So a lot of time I can't say what I need to say verbatim to your face, but a text message may just get it. So I'm very intentional about everything I do right now. I'm intentional on loving. I'm intentional on how my feelings is. I'm intentional on telling somebody that hurt my feelings. And I'm intentional on telling somebody how to treat me, because you can only treat me the way I allow you to. And if you can't treat me the way I want to be treated, then I got to move you out my space. And so when you done lost somebody as big and grand as your dad, losing other people don't feel the same. So I'm okay with acting like people don't exist in my life, um, because my job is not to take everybody on the journey that I'm with, and I can't save everybody, but I damn sure can keep the peace here and keep me sane for those boys, for them to have a same mom and me get to the next level. So, hey.
Okay. So before we get to the last question, I want to make sure I ask this question. Where can we get the book?
You can get the book at a lot of places. Um, right now, it's on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon, and you can just pull up. You can't make this up. Life of the Custom Pastor, and come right up. It's at Barnes and Nobles. I also have my own website at which is sold out at the moment. Um, you can't make this up. www.squarespace.com. And also in the book, the month of March, I am set up at a lot of book expos that's going on in March for at least every weekend of March, where you can actually get the book on hand and they can actually meet with me. I am a very people person. I'm a girls. I love, and I will sign the book. And I also want to show people that I recreated my dad's shirt.
Okay.
It's called he used to have these shirts called Well Damn in Matthias Matthews' voice. So I recreated his shirts, and some other things. And I also got shot glasses because my dad was my drinking buddy. So I have shot glasses that have like a picture of the book, and it's also have a picture of him, a memorial picture of him that I also have. So we're gonna keep his name going. It's so many things I really want to do in the name of him, because I do think my dad was the godfather of podcasts. And so I'm looking to do big ventures, but also I love to speak to people and big on women empowerment and getting us together. And so yeah, I'm interested in doing a whole lot of things. So I guess he had to pass for me to do all this thing that he wanted me to do when he was here. So
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Okay. All right. So last one. There's a woman right now listening who feels ashamed or stuck in her past. If she could hear you directly, what would you want to tell her?
I mean, it's the past. You either got to forgive yourself and move on, or you're going to be stuck in your past. We can control our future. We can control everything that goes around us. But I dare you to step out on faith and try them. Whatever that thing is that it is that you want um, to do, to change your life, to make your life better, I dare you. You know, when they say faith, I dare you to just try 'em. I dare you just to step out. I dare you to everybody that's around you that's giving you any negative energy that can't understand where it is when what it is that you're trying to do. I dare you to just stop taking care of them, or not call them, or and do you and be by yourself. Sometimes we got to let people go. And so we got to be around people that's like us. My short mindsets is gonna keep you away from people. You got to be around some people that see something as grand and big as you. And I've had the opportunity to go somewhere and see people that's doing things in huge ways, and that's why I love the team that I have. Because when it came down to, hey, who we want to pitch your book to, when I said Oprah, she didn't think it was big. She didn't think it was crazy or far fetched. I need people to know that we can do big things in this world. And just because we come from little old Memphis shouldn't be something that keep us here. And so, yeah, I dare a woman to change her life and get it to, and have it whatever it is that you want. I dare you to, if you're grieving, to get up the next day. I dare you, if you are sick and feel like can't do. I dare you to do your makeup for the day to make yourself feel better. It's those little steps. And sometimes you can't get the positive that you want, but sometimes you can turn on a podcast, and sometimes you can turn on, YouTube, and get the positivity that you want. A lot of times when I'm putting out positivity on my page, it's something that I want somebody to say to me. But if I can't get somebody to say it to me, that's okay. I'll say it to myself. So, man, it's a lot of stuff that's going on in this world, and there's a lot of things to stress you out. Don't let yourself be the one to stress you out. And even when it comes to when they say don't put all your eggs in one basket, I think that's bull crap, because I bet on myself before I bet on anybody else. I can put everything into me and say, I'm going to do it. And when it came down to this book, it was so many people that was upset about me doing this book. It was so many people that told me I didn't need to do this book. It was so many people who didn't believe that I was going to actually complete it. And the fact of that I betted on myself, I invest in myself, and still now that I have people who will want to work with me. And don't worry about nobody creating tables, because I'm a Matthews, everybody don't want to work with me because of who my dad was. But that's okay. I can create my own table. And I had my dad's whole platform taken right from under me. I said, that's okay. I'm Dominique motherfucking Matthews. I can do this myself.
Yeah.
So I don't need, so, and look where we at. So I dare you to just get up and be a badass woman today.
Well said. Well, I certainly appreciate you coming here and blessing us with your presence, and it's been enlightening to learn about your life, what's made you stronger as a woman, and I think just how you ended it. I think there are women out there that are going through that don't have a voice,
Yeah.
and you seem to be that voice for them. So I know they appreciate it, and my goal and hope is that this show today actually touched somebody.
I hope so
And
too.
it reaches somebody, even if it reaches one person. That one person can reach millions, right? So certainly love the story, and hopefully I can have you back on.
I'm down. I'm really down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate you for having me and the opportunity to even get my book out there. So
Yeah.
that I feel the same way. If it touched one person, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So ministry don't always look like from the pulpit. I believe ministry believes in whatever God is telling you to do. So God don't give you visions for nothing.
Yeah.
And so if he gave it to you, it was just meant for you. And if nobody understands what it is that you're trying to do, that's because it wasn't meant for them. It was meant for you.
Right.
So
All right, I appreciate it.
thank you.
If this episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And remember, your story isn't over, and your past doesn't get the final word. This is the Purpose Pursuit Podcast. Go pursue yours.